What if WWE didn't just partner with TNA, but bought the entire company? With both rosters full of shared history, who stays loyal and who jumps ship? That's the scenario we're exploring today, using WWE 2K25 Universe Mode. Rey Mysterio had just pulled off a clean win over Karrion Kross, what many believed could be Kross's last match in WWE. But before Mysterio could enjoy the fruits of his labor, Joe Hendry struck. Out of nowhere, the TNA standout made his Raw debut with a vicious ambush, flooring Mysterio with authority. And then, shockingly, Kross, the man who'd just lost moments earlier, joined in. From the crowd emerged Santana, still listed as a TNA exclusive talent, and yet here he was, crossing company lines and laying into a WWE Hall of Famer without consequence. It was brutal, but the crowd still held out hope when R-Truth and Ethan Page came sprinting down the ramp, only for that hope to be crushed. In a swerve no one saw coming, both Truth and Page turned on Rey. What we witnessed wasn't just a post-match attack, it was a message. Kross picked up a microphone. Every man you see standing beside me tonight was once given a chance by TNA, a real chance. Not just a role, not just a spot on the card, a platform and a purpose. WWE never understood us. They tolerated us and used us, gave us moments but never meaning. But TNA saw the future in us. And now, that future is here. The crowd began to stir, some cheering, some unsure. Kross stepped forward, pacing slowly as he pointed to each man around him, each one nodding silently. You think this ends with us? This is just the beginning. More are coming. More who remember where they came from. TNA isn't dead. TNA didn't get absorbed. TNA is rising. You'll see them walk out that door and walk straight into Impact on Sci-Fi. The line had been drawn, and for the first time in years, the letters TNA carried the weight of rebellion. Raw opened the following week on a hopeful note as Sami Zayn made his entrance to a thunderous ovation. With a microphone in hand, Zayn spoke from the heart, talking about his recent work with youth outreach programs, international charity efforts, and using his platform to give back. It was classic Sami, genuine, focused on something bigger than wrestling. But just as he began to tie it back to the WWE Universe, the energy in the arena shifted. From the crowd, like a coordinated strike, the TNA coalition surged forward. Elijah, formerly known as Elias, was the first to strike, blindsiding Zayn with an acoustic equalizer across the back. Within seconds, the rest of the unit followed. The crowd erupted into chaos, but the commentary team didn't have time to even stand up before Zayn was hoisted up and driven through the commentary table, a sickening thud. Joe Hendry stood front and center, flanked by his TNA entourage. Moose and Hendry spoke. WWE bought the name, and they bought the tape library. They bought the trademark. And in one meeting behind closed doors, they vacated every title that meant something to us. Years of blood, sweat, sacrifice, erased in a press release. But they didn't buy us. They think they can take what they want and rewrite history, just like they did with ECW, just like they always do. But we watched that happen once. We watched them gut a legacy and dress it up in their image. Not this time. We won't be rebranded. We won't be folded into your mid-card. We are not nostalgia. We are resistance. At SummerSlam, before WWE even thinks about crowning a TNA champion, we'll beat them to it. We will crown the real TNA World Champion. Later that night, the camera cut backstage, and there stood CM Punk, taping his fists, eyes burning with purpose, and when he spoke, the room went silent. "You want to hijack my show?" he said, voice low and seething. "You want to jump legends, make statements, tear up commentary tables, all to get a few more eyes on Sci-Fi? You put Rey through a table. You left Sami Zayn in a heap. You think this is a movement, but I've seen movements. I've led them, and I know what happens when they go unchecked. This isn't your stage. This isn't your home. This is Monday Night Raw, and like it or not, it still runs through me. TNA might have momentum, but momentum doesn't make you bulletproof. I don't care who your leader is at SummerSlam, because I'm not waiting until then to put one of you down. I've dealt with invaders before. Ask Nexus, ask The Shield, hell, ask the company itself. TNA's next." For most of the night, Raw felt normal. Adam Pearce, still silent on the TNA situation, refused to even acknowledge the chaos unfolding across his brand. The show went on as scheduled. Sami Zayn and Rey Mysterio versus the newly drafted Motor City Machine Gun. A dream match on paper. And in the ring, it delivered. Zayn picked up the win, catching Shelley with a helluva that lit the crowd up. It looked like a feel-good moment for the two battle-worn veterans. But of course, it was never going to end that simply. The second the bell rang, Santana struck. Chair in hand, he blindsided Rey Mysterio with a vicious shot to the back of the head, echoing that first message from 2 weeks ago. And then, it happened. In an instant that rewrote the tone of the night, The Motor City Machine Guns, Chris Sabin and Alex Shelley, turned on Zayn without hesitation. Two TNA legends, shedding any illusion of loyalty to WWE. They beat Sammy down with surgical precision, two men who once helped define the X Division now becoming architects of this rebellion. And just when it seemed like TNA was about to walk away with another message sent, CM Punk's music hit. The World Heavyweight Champion stormed the ring, fired up, furious. He dropped Santana with a GTS. He sent Elijah for a hot dog in record time. For a brief moment, the numbers didn't matter. Punk was on fire. But momentum only lasts so long. The numbers caught up and TNA began to swarm him, until the crowd roared. Nick Aldis appeared. The former SmackDown GM, dressed in a sharp suit, calmly walked to the ring. The arena froze. No one knew what side he was on. He stepped into the chaos and stood between Punk and the TNA attackers. For a heartbeat, it looked like he might bring order, and then he turned around and dropped Punk with pure precision. The air was sucked out of the arena. The crowd erupted in shock. Aldis, the former TNA World Champion, had just made his allegiance clear. He stood over Punk, buttoned his jacket, and picked up a mic. You wanted answers? Here's one. I'm not here to manage WWE egos anymore. I'm not here to babysit networks or answer to executives. I'm the general manager of TNA now, and next week, I make my first official announcement. The crowd was still processing what they'd witnessed when the screen cut to black. TNA standing tall, Punk laid out, and Nick Aldis now holding power not just in the ring, but behind the scenes. TNA isn't just invading, they're building. Raw opened not with WWE, not with the theme music of a champion, but with the presence of a takeover. Nick Aldis stepped onto the stage, flanked by a fearsome lineup, Motor City Machine Guns at his side, Moose standing like a wall of muscle behind him, and through the crowd, the rest of the TNA roster poured in like an army. No music or pyro, just movement and intent. They filled the ring and surrounded it, claiming it not as guests, but as the new hosts of Monday Night Raw. Nick Aldis raised a mic, calm as ever, dressed sharp, commanding the spotlight. Last week, we made it clear, TNA isn't just back, we're building something better than ever. But before that vision becomes reality, there's one decision that needed to be made. The WWE brass want to crown their version of a TNA champion, their pick, their product. But we've already made our choice. The TNA roster, our locker room voted, and we voted unanimously. We're going to crown our TNA champion, a man we believe represents what this movement is truly about, the next leader of TNA and the face of Impact on Sci-Fi. A buzz rippled through the crowd. Who would it be? Who had the TNA roster chosen? And then, boom, LA Knight's music hit. The place exploded. The entire arena lit up. Chants of "yeah" rained down as Knight walked out onto the ramp. Aldis gave a knowing nod. He had clearly extended the olive branch, but Knight wasn't here to shake hands. Aldis, I got your email. I read every word of it. Real nice pitch. Money, main events, your little revolution. But let me make this crystal clear. If the price of becoming your champion is crawling back to TNA, I'd rather retire. The crowd erupted again, a mix of cheers and gasps. Aldis's face tightened, calm but cold. You see, you don't want a champion, you want a puppet, and LA Knight doesn't play that. So if you're looking for a face of TNA, keep looking. Yeah, and in that moment, LA Knight became the first big name to say no to the revolution. The crowd was electric, the TNA roster seething. TNA had their movement, but not everyone was buying in. It took weeks of silence, but finally, Monday Night Raw acknowledged the war happening right under its nose. Raw GM Adam Pearce signed off on the main event, CM Punk versus Chris Sabin, a match that, 10 years ago, would have headlined dream cards, and tonight it delivered. A 5-star clinic between two masters of their craft. Sabin reminded the world that he's still every bit the technician he was in his X Division prime. But CM Punk, bruised but driven, clawed his way through. After nearly 20 minutes, one GTS was all it took to put Sabin down, and instead of celebrating with a raised hand, Punk sat cross-legged in the center of the ring. The crowd went quiet as he raised the mic, locking eyes with the hard cam. I've talked to Pearce, and I've been informed, finally, that my opponent at SummerSlam will be the leader of TNA. But here's the thing, I don't fight shadows. I don't fight masked mobs. I don't fight ghosts. If this war's real, then step into the light. And yeah, it's gonna be a double title match. My World Heavyweight Championship and your TNA title. Winner takes all. But here's all the motivation I need when I beat your so-called leader. When I hold that TNA title high. I'm not keeping it. I'm gonna drop it in a trash can on live TV, right here, in this ring, right where it belongs. Then, everything changed. From behind, a masked figure slid into the ring, silent and dangerous. Punk never saw it coming. One brutal shot to the back of the head dropped him flat, then, slowly, pulled the mask off. AJ Styles. The crowd exploded. Years of history, tension, legacy, all converging in that single moment. Styles looked down at Punk with hate in his eyes, then grabbed him. Styles clash. The leader of TNA has revealed himself. At SummerSlam, it's AJ Styles versus CM Punk. Title for title. Legacy versus legacy. This battle is no longer theoretical. It's happening. The main event of SummerSlam. The culmination of weeks of invasion, rebellion, and betrayal. CM Punk versus AJ Styles. World Heavyweight Champion versus the brand-elected TNA World Champion. AJ Styles enters first, flanked by the TNA Coalition. Then the music hits and out comes Punk. Flanked only by Sami Zayn, Punk marches toward the ring with his trademark confidence. He's been trying to fight the good fight for WWE, but Punk's never been a locker room favorite. He walks into this war outnumbered, but unshaken. The bell rings and the battle begins. AJ and Punk tear into each other with a fury that's been brewing for over a decade. Styles' speed, Punk's grit. Every move comes with meaning. Every strike feels personal, but inevitably, it starts to fall apart. At ringside, Cross grabs Sami Zayn and chokes him out. MCMG and the rest of the TNA crew clash with members of the WWE locker room who've rushed out. Chaos spilling outside the barricades. Inside the ring, the referee is doing everything he can to keep this from imploding. And then, a moment that will go down in history. Jeff Hardy, but not the Hardy you remember. This is not the charismatic enigma of old. This is the Antichrist of professional wrestling. Cold eyes and unhinged energy. The last time the world saw this version of Jeff Hardy, he was spiraling, out of control. And now, he's back, with one purpose, to ruin CM Punk. Before we can process what just happened, AJ Styles has Punk in the Styles Clash. Styles is the new undisputed world champion. He holds both titles above his head, WWE's crown jewel and TNA's resurrection piece. The battle is over. The takeover is real. CM Punk lies motionless in the center of it all, betrayed by his past, buried by the future. The Antichrist of professional wrestling just cost CM Punk everything.